Good morning. Thank you for tuning into this devotion. And we're continuing our series on the life of Christ. And today we're going to be focusing on the book of John to begin, and then we're going to transfer over to Luke. And these are some of the precursor things, things that you need to know when we're going to study the book, the life of Christ, and then also some things about John the Baptist leading up to the coming of the Messiah. And so the Gospel of John was written about AD 90 to 100. And so it was obviously about 60 to 70 years after the resurrection and the ascension of Christ. And so written from really more of a later account of Jesus, and written to present Christ as the Son of God, as deity. And this means that he was 100% God. And we know from the book of Philippians 2:6-8, that Jesus was 100% man and he was 100% God at the same time. And that's one of the one of the things about Jesus that we can't 100% understand. There's some things that we just kind of have to take. If you believe the Bible, you have to take it just as it says it. And you can try to parse them out and figure out exactly what that means. But when it comes down to it, and you break it all the way down, and you say that Jesus was God and he was man at the same time, there's not a lot we can go on except for faith. And but I believe the Bible, so I'm okay with that in some instances, right? And so he was God and man, and the book of John is written as such. And so that word deity that I mentioned before means that Christ is God. And so it was written to the world at large, not just one people group like the other Gospels were, either to the Jews or the Romans. And so this book is written to everybody. And it's really just telling how Jesus was God, an important part of the Gospel. And so the key verse in John chapter 20, verse number 31, the Bible says, "But these are written that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you might have life through his name." And so that is the key verse. That word believe is going to be central to the theme of the book of John. And that word means to hold to rely on, to depend upon. And Jesus is certainly worthy of our belief and of our dependence. And so the word is Christ, starting in John 1. And this is the beginning of the gospel. John chapter 1 and verses 1 through, I believe, about 18, where you can find where it breaks down kind of the entire gospel in just these few verses. So we're going to go kind of verse by verse through this. So bear with me, stick with me, pull out a Bible and follow along if you can. John 1:1, the Bible says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Verse 2, "The same was in the beginning with God." Jesus is the Word that God used to create the heavens and the earth and to create all of us, everything you see all around us. He was that Word. And so from that we can determine that Jesus was from the beginning of time, which really we can't go back to. There's no, it doesn't start at, year 5,000 BC, a million BC. We don't know the beginning, but Jesus transcends time, and God does. And so from the beginning of everything was Jesus. He is now. He lives today, and also he lives in the future and into eternity, far beyond anything that we can imagine. And so Jesus is. He is the Word. And so that's John 1 and 2. And Jesus was also the light. That's in verses 8 and 9. The Bible says, "He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world." And of course, in verse number 8 there, the first part referencing John the Baptist, who we're going to talk about in a second. But more importantly right now, Jesus was the light. When he was on the earth, living in human form, carrying our flesh around, Jesus was the light of God, and that light is the gospel. And so he was sharing that light. Then we find in verse number 11 that he came unto his own, and his own received him not. And what a sad testimony that is. He didn't come as they expected, and so they turned away from who he said he was. And they expected him to come in on a white horse and as a conquering king. But instead he came as a babe in a manger, born to a lowly family, a working class family, and didn't even have an earthly father. And so a lot of people said he was illegitimate and all these things. And so they rejected the Christ, this Messiah that was to come. And the Word was made flesh, John 1:14, and dwelt among us. And that's the doctrine of incarnation, to which we've already kind of alluded. It means that God took on human flesh. And next we have John the Baptist. And we're going to kind of get into his story just a little bit today. And then we'll be done. And next time we meet, we're going to discuss the birth of Christ. It'll be like Christmas in June. And so, but John the Baptist was born to Zacharias, who was a priest. And this is found in Luke chapter 1 in verse number 5. And I'll read that verse for us today. The Bible says, "There was in the days of Herod, the king of Judea, a certain priest named Zacharias of the course of Abiah. And his wife was of the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth." Verse 6, "And they were both righteous before God, walking in all the commandments and ordinances of the Lord, blameless. And an angel appeared," in verses 11 through 17 of Luke 1, "An angel appeared to Zacharias and said, 'You are going to have a son. Your wife Elizabeth will bear a son. His name will be John, and he will be the forerunner to Jesus. He will proclaim that the Messiah is to come shortly.'" And so Zacharias, as you know, the story goes, Zacharias did not believe the angel. And he didn't believe that his wife would have a son. They were old. And so he was made dumb by the angel, meaning that he couldn't talk. And he didn't until after his son was born. And so John the Baptist was born. And Mary at her home in Nazareth had just found out that she would have a son as well. And so you have John the Baptist. And he would grow up, to jump forward in the story a little bit, he would grow up to be kind of a strange man. And probably not someone that you would want to interact a ton with. I picture him as just a burly man, broad shoulders and a big belly, and wearing garments of camel hair and eating locusts and honey. Probably a man that you would see walking down the street, and you would cross the road and walk on the other side, right? Just probably not a person who you would try to be friends with, if you're looking for a normal friend. And so, but that was John the Baptist, and had an important job. And the Bible says that he was literally sent from God in John 1. And so the man sent from God, whose name was John, and his job was to declare that the Messiah is imminent. And so be ready for this man. I'm unworthy to buckle his sandals. I'm not worthy to tie his shoes in modern vernacular. But a great man. He is coming, this Messiah that we've been waiting for generations. And so John the Baptist had an important job. And so here's some precursor to Jesus' birth. And I'm excited for next time. One of my favorite stories, probably my favorite story in all of history, is the story of Christ's birth. And we'll break that down a little bit next time we meet. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you have a wonderful day.